Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Maneesh Sethi, and I'm excited to see so many people here. A few of you guys, all of you from Chicago, I guess. You do these often, Mark?
Yeah, we were trying to do it once a month.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about habits today. I assume that most of the people here are interested in habits to some variety. Um, how many here has read the book The Power of Habit? If you have, press that raise hand button or whatever.
I definitely have.
Yeah, it's a good book. So The Power of Habit's really funny because whenever I talk about Pavlok and how a lot of people are able to break bad habits in a few days, people are always like, but doesn't it take 21 days to change a habit? And I'm like, no, it takes 21 days to form an easy habit. That's a very different thing than breaking a bad habit. And so I started to get really deep into habit psychology. And I met this guy who really made me start to think and rethink what I was doing. I'm going to go ahead and show a quick picture of this guy. So I'm assuming you can see my screen. There's a guy.
Yep.
Cool. So this is a guy named Abbas. He was a Lyft driver, taxi driver once back in about a year or two ago. And I told him about how I was working on this habit product and how it was a lot about fitness. This is before we became a Breaking Bad Habits product. And he told me that he had lost 80 pounds doing some fitness routine. And I looked at him and I was like, really? He was a big guy. And he said, yeah, but then I ended up gaining it all back. And I said, really? Tell me more. What happened? What was the difference between when you had lost 80 pounds and when you gained it all back? And Abbas told me that every year he decided he was going to go ahead and get started. He was going to go ahead and start exercising. And one time he and a friend decided to do it together. And they decided that they were going to carpool together to work, and they were going to work out on the way there. They were going to stop by a gym on the way there. So they ended up doing it. They did it for like 3 or 4 months. His friend dropped out, but he kept going. And after 7 or 8 months, he had gotten really, really fit. He found that he was actually just every day getting up, going to the office, going in his car, driving to work. But on the way, he would stop, work out, and go to work. Well, then his schedule got changed, and he was a little bit strained. He was a little bit worried about it. And he decided to get a gym closer to his house, so he knew he would be closer to his office, so he'd be able to work out. But he made one small mistake. He put the gym 1 block past his office. So suddenly the internal conversation in his head changed. He would drive, instead of stopping and pulling over on the way to work, he would pass his office and he'd say, well, let me just drop my stuff off inside and then I'll go to the gym right after. And he never went to the gym again. And he gained back all 80 pounds. And the next day I went and I shifted my gym, one that was 1 block past my office to one that cost more, but it was on the way to work. And that small change ended up making me go to the gym 5 days out of 5 instead of 1 day out of 5. And it really broke it down into what a habit is. I started to notice that a habit is when it takes more effort to not do something than to do something. When the actual gym was on my path to work, I saw it. The trigger or the cue was on my way to work. And it was so easy to just step inside. But when I had to go a little bit farther and I didn't see the reminder of going to the gym, well, then it became a lot more difficult. And the habit fell away rapidly. And I stopped going to the gym as well. So this is like the initial stages of my understanding of what a habit is. And it's kind of the beginnings of how I started getting into habit psychology, getting into forming habits, and then over time moving into breaking bad habits. One big key critical thing to understand is that a habit and willpower are diametrically opposed. That habits are things that take more effort to not do, whereas willpower is the act of utilizing effort. And willpower is really, really effective at the beginning stages of a habit. It's necessary. You need to make yourself do an action enough days in a row before that action becomes a habit. But willpower alone is not enough. Willpower gets you started, but you've got to figure out the tricks to make it stick. So I'm sure you have all seen the How to Form a Habit. This is from the book Power of Habit. And this talks about the habit loop. A habit loop starts off with a cue, that's a trigger. It merges into a routine, that's the habit, the action you want to do. And it always ends with a reward. When you're forming a habit, you can institute rewards. For example, if I go to the gym every morning at 10 a.m., then I'm going to give myself a cookie after working out. It's a pretty counterintuitive, dumb reward because you're going to end up ruining your workout. But looking forward to that external reward is something that's going to help push you and motivate you to continue to do it. You're going to set a cue. Your trigger is going to be a time, a location, another action you've already completed that day. You're going to use that and you're going to utilize it in a way where you start to find yourself doing the action over and over again. The trick is that the reward will start to shift over time. Brushing your teeth at the beginning was only a reward because your mom would stop yelling at you. But now, after a while, the reward becomes internal. It becomes physically weird if you haven't brushed your teeth. Often, if you, I call it the look back effect. If you leave your house and you look back and say, oh shoot, did I forget to do something? That's when something has become an internally heavily focused habit. Phones in your pocket, brushing your teeth are two common ones where you just need to do something to essentially scratch an itch. The interesting part about habits is that there's, this is a pretty cool study I read from the University College of London. This is the science behind how to form a habit is very simple. There's only one variable. It's consistency. How many days in a row should you do an action before that action becomes a habit? So they looked at the level of where it becomes harder to not do something than to do something is known as the maximum level of automaticity. And here in this graph, this is based on a study from the University College of London where they asked a bunch of participants to do a variety of different habits, whatever they wanted to do. And they measured how long it took before it became just natural. They said, for drinking after breakfast, I will drink a glass of water. They found that it took just about 20 days before that habit became fully automatic, before somebody would look back if they forgot to drink water. They would feel uncomfortable if they didn't drink water. The most difficult habit in the study was 50 sit-ups after breakfast. If someone wanted to do 50 sit-ups after breakfast, it's a pretty hard habit. It took 84 days until they reached that maximum level of automaticity. On average, the habits took about 66 days. So if they did one action every day in a row for 66 days, that habit became fully ingrained in the brain. And if you look at it under a fMRI machine, you're going to see the first few days of any sort of habit formation. A lot of activity occurs in the prefrontal cortex. That's where willpower lives. And over time, the more and more you use it, it starts to migrate backwards to the basal ganglia, which is known for where habits are stored. And as it recedes back and back and back, it becomes more and more absolutely purely automatic. So I saw this graph and I was like, wow, 66 days is a lot of time to form a habit. It really is. And 84 days to do 50 sit-ups is extremely difficult. How would we get anybody to do something 84 days in a row? But I also saw it as kind of beautiful. Anybody who does any activity for 50 days in a row, for 66 days in a row, for 84 days in a row, that habit becomes a part of them. You can take the fattest guy in the Midwest who's never done a workout in his life and get him to do 50 sit-ups every day in the morning. And he becomes the kind of person who needs to do 50 sit-ups in the morning. You just got to put 3 months of your life into something that's slightly difficult and it becomes a part of who you are, which I found to be really, really powerful. It's kind of similar to that 1% rule that I'm sure many of you have read, that if you can increase your productivity or increase your fitness just 1% every month for the rest of your life, over time it compounds so fast that you'll be a million times better than where you are right now just by adding a slight change to each day. So I took this idea of consistency in forming a habit, and I said, that's interesting. Let me pull this back to the first step. How do you get somebody to do the behavior one time? This is about how do you get someone, if they're doing behavior multiple days in a row, how long will it take to form the habit? But how do you get them to do 50 sit-ups that one freaking time? How do you get them to drink a glass of water that one time? And so this went back to my studying back at Stanford when I studied under Professor BJ Fogg. He designed something called the Fogg behavioral model. It's a little bit confusing. The graph is very grandiose. It doesn't matter. There's two axes. The first axis on the left is motivation. Somebody needs to be highly motivated in order to do something. On the second graph, it's ability. An action needs to be easy to do in order for for a behavior to occur. Thus, if someone is highly motivated to go to the gym at the beginning of the year, it's New Year's resolution, they really want to go, but they don't have a gym membership, they don't have gym shoes, and they don't even know what workout they're going to do when they get there, even if they're highly motivated, it's going to be very hard for them to do that behavior. Their ability level will be low. Thus, they won't do the behavior. What we need to do is not just make people more motivated to do something, but also make it easier to do. Hence, that's why Abbas, when he suddenly changed, when he moved his gym a little bit past his work, he stopped going. It got slightly harder to do. For me, when I put the gym on my way to work, it became natural. It was just there. Making an action easy to do is often better than improving the motivation of somebody, including yourself, if you're trying to get yourself to do new behavior. Now, we took this back and we built this into a habit formation model, which we used back in 2014 to help 235 people who wanted to go to the gym, half of which had never ever been in a gym before. We developed what we call the Pavlok behavioral microhabit model. And it's very simple. It's a combination of making things easy to do and including motivators. We found that at the beginning of a habit, it's more powerful to have a fear of loss or a negative reinforcer to make a habit start. Combine that with making a habit super simple, and that's how we get this model. So here's what we did. We took these 235 people and we said, okay, for the first week, you guys all want to become fit. For the first week, all you have to do is go outside in your gym clothes and lock the front door. And that's it for 5 days in a row. You don't have to work out. You don't have to do anything else. You can come right back in and eat some candy, but you just have to go outside in your gym clothes and lock the front door. That's closer to drinking a glass of water on the habit spectrum than it is to doing 50 sit-ups. The second part of that is we made a bet. So to add a reinforcer or motivation, we said, if you don't go outside in your gym clothes and lock your front door, you're going to owe $20 to your accountability partner. Well, now it became very interesting because it was so easy to do, you can't fail. And so stupid to fail, why would you? That almost every single person hit that goal that week. If they hit it 5 days in a row, they got to buy themselves a pair of shoes or whatever they publicly committed to buying themselves at the beginning of the experiment. For week 2, they had to go outside in their gym clothes, lock the front door, go to the gym, which was on the way to work, and swipe their card at the door. That's it. No workout, just swipe their card. Next week, they had to go outside, do their activity, swipe their card at the gym, and do some activity for 5 minutes at the gym. The next week, 15 minutes at the gym. The next week, 30 minutes at the gym. And like I said, if they didn't do these actions, they would be charged money. But if they did do it, they would receive a reward. Well, what we found was amazing. 80% of our users stuck through the entire way. They literally did their fitness activity each day. Now, as we got to the end of the month, what was interesting is even though the exercising habit hadn't been formed yet, the habit of going outside in their gym clothes and locking the front door was firmly implanted in the brain. And as all of you know, I'm sure, getting outside is the hardest step of going to the gym. By the time they got out, they just naturally would walk to the gym. They naturally would swipe their card. It's what they did 30 days in a row. And we managed to maintain in our 3 months of testing 80% month over month retention of people being at the gym every single day. That's kind of the secret to forming habits. And that's so this was really interesting to me because when we started the company, we were a habit formation company. We started off with this idea of how do we get people to form good habits. And we found that reinforcers and negative reinforcers would be really, really powerful. Very, very useful ways to trick people, to get people to form these habits of positive health. But I wanted to build a wearable device that could do the same. So I invented Pavlok. I'm sure everyone here has heard of it. It's a small wearable that's able to vibrate, beep, and zap when instructed. It uses a accelerometer for motion. It is able to release multiple different patterns, so it can beep and play melodies or play vibration patterns and then send variable levels of stimuli. And the idea at the beginning was to make it a negative reinforcer. So if I don't go to the gym, Pavlok will start to zap me repeatedly until I get up and go to the gym. And we started playing around with this idea, and it became very, very confusing because it required it to always be on you, and then it would do stuff until you did something. And then we stumbled on a very interesting concept in science called aversion therapy. Let me see if I have any slides of this up here. I don't think I do. It's an old one. Aversion therapy is a old type of very well-studied classical conditioning science for curing addiction and breaking bad habits. It was pretty common in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, disappeared in the mid-90s. And the model was very simple. It was a 5-day treatment in which a patient who wanted to quit an addiction, whether it be smoking, gambling, nail biting, obsessive compulsive thoughts, they would go in to a doctor. The doctor would say, okay, for the next 20 minutes, you're going to do this behavior while you stand over there. And every time I instruct you to do it, you're going to zap yourself. It was like the 9-volt battery. They'd stick themselves in the 9-volt battery. Or they'd say, you're going to do whatever they want. So for smokers, they'd have them go stand in the other room. The smoker would light the cigarette, zap. Bring the cigarette to their mouth, zap. Take a puff, zap. They have to do it for about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes each day for 5 days. Now, when I read the study, I was intrigued because I had already invented a device that could zap you. 2, it was a clinical trial. And 3, it was done on smoking addiction, which I find to be a very interesting problem. And I read the study and my mind was blown away because, well, the numbers. So if someone tries to quit smoking cigarettes today and they quit cold turkey, they have a 5% chance of being smoke-free a year later. If someone uses nicotine patches for 6 months, guess how much of a chance they have of being smoke-free 6 months later? Go ahead and write in the chat. 5% quitting cold turkey. What are some guesses that you guys have for how effective it would be for someone to quit? I don't know how to actually read these things. All right. Well, I'm seeing 10%, 3%, 15%. The answer is 7.5%. Or as the nicotine company said, it's 50% more effective than quitting cold turkey. It went from 5% to 7.5%. When I looked at the study with 5 days of aversive therapy, a year later, fewer than half, 55.5%, had never smoked a single cigarette again. Of those who returned to a non-smoking household, 61.4% of them did not smoke a single cigarette after 5 days of therapy. And I started wondering why. And I started to do and reproduce the experiment. I reproduced it with a group of people at UMass Boston. I reproduced it myself with a bag of tortilla chips. For 5 days, I zapped myself as I ate tortilla chips. And you know what happened? The exact same thing that happened to me and all my friends in college when we drank too much Bacardi 151 one night. We built this aversion to the habit. I'm sure somebody here has drunk too much tequila and suddenly the smell of tequila makes them nauseous and they get this weird cringy feeling in the chest and then like the mouth and like the nose. And that cringy feeling is an aversion. And in the brain, it's a classical association, and it's a built-in human evolution. It's when two stimuli happen at the same time, your reptile brain where habits are stored, the basal ganglia doesn't know what's going on. It only knows that it likes pain, it likes pleasure, it doesn't like pain. And when it realizes that it's smoking a cigarette at the same time as getting zapped, it says, what the hell? I used to like this. Now I don't like this. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to signal my daddy brain to be aware and take control of the situation while I just stop desiring to do this activity. It creates what's known as an aversion, and it makes people become more aware. And those are two critical components in our process to break bad habits: creating an aversion and creating awareness. Now, Mark will tell you, I think Mark just told me a few minutes ago, that he's been using Pavlok to quit biting his nails. And every time he catches himself biting his nails, he presses the button. It gives you a mild electric shock. You set the level so it's not supposed to be painful. But by day 2 or day 3, almost every user is more cognizant of when they began to do the habit. The triggers become less automatic. It's that between stimulus and response, a little moment of awareness is inserted by adding a slight negative reinforcer at the moment of the action. And so when we started to test this out on our users, we found some really cool results. Smokers would maintain as good a success rate as the studies or higher. Nail biters had much higher success rate. About 80% of our nail biters will quit within 5 days. Facebook usage, social media usage, sitting down for too long, those habits are really powerful. And there's something that we're able to help people with. My favorite is food. I have a lot of users who use it for quitting sugar. And we've noticed that the actual flavor of sugar starts to taste bad if you use Pavlok enough days in a row. So what I've been talking about so far is a manual usage of Pavlok to quit bad habits. So 5 days, our program is a 5-day program. For 5 days, you do what you want to do, the bad habit. You get to do it on purpose. The sales pitch is awesome. It's like, you're trying to quit eating candy? Great. Well, day 1, go out and buy a shit ton of candy. Next week, you get to eat all of it. You don't just get to, you have to. And now over the next week, for 5 minutes a day for 5 days, the users will do the bad habit on purpose, set a timer, do the bad habit on purpose, and zap themselves at every puff of the cigarette or bite of the candied soup, I guess is the hand motion I'm making. And that action will cause the aversion to occur. The trick is most users think they quit after 3 or 4 days. You have to force yourself to do it a little longer than you'd expect to so that the habit becomes a permanent aversion. It's kind of like if you catch your child smoking a cigarette, you make him smoke the entire pack. That's how you break a bad habit permanently. So that's all about that's how habits can be broken. And that's kind of the core focus of what we do today. Over time, and right now, we've been extending it to become a little bit longer. So how can we automate this process? Can we get a Pavlok to work such that it vibrates you for doing good things and zaps you for doing bad things with it becoming a trainer? This is no longer classical conditioning. Once it starts zapping you, it's operant conditioning. It's a positive punisher, not a classical association. Once it starts zapping you, it's a different way to approach the ballgame and different books you read to learn how it works. But right now I have it set. So every time I open my refrigerator door, there's a sensor on my refrigerator door that's connected to the Pavlok through IFTTT. So every time I open it up, I get 2 zaps on my wrist, and then on my iWatch it says, "Are you sure you're hungry, fatty?" We have like an app that's hooked into our productivity Chrome extension, so it knows what websites you're on and how many tabs you've opened. And it's pretty magical because I used to have 1,000 tabs open, and now it vibrates at 6. It vibrates at 14 tabs, beeps at 15 tabs, and zaps me at 16. I never go over 16 tabs anymore. Those are cool little tricks, but one of the most interesting ones that we saw was our release of the alarm clock app. So we released, I've always been a morning person. I've never really used an alarm clock, so I didn't really think this was necessary. But we started noticing our users were sending a lot of emails about the alarm clock, like a lot. And we got the same line, and I think at least 30 or 40 emails, the same line. I used to be a night owl. Now I'm a morning person. And I was like, this is intriguing. What's going on? So we started to ask our users, and we found something interesting, that there was a very consistent path that was going on with using shock in the morning. Basically, people would wake up in the morning, and I don't know if anybody here is like this, but snoozing all the time, hitting the snooze button like 20 times in a row, and never getting out of bed, groggy, unable to control their behavior in the morning. And so what was happening in these users is that they would get a vibration to wake them up from the Pavlok, and they would hit the snooze button. And then they would get a beep to wake them up, and they'd hit the snooze button. And then they would get a zap, and they would instantly be awake. The next day or the day after, they'd do the same thing, but just the vibration alone would trigger the fear response. It was like their brain knew that a zap was coming because the stimuli were consistent, and it woke them up early enough that they could get away from it. After about a week or two, what was really cool is that it would happen a minute before the alarm would even go off. That users were naturally being trained to wake up at that time alert and ready for like danger. And that's why we kept getting so many emails of people who used to be night owls were becoming morning people. What was cool about it is that they were naturally beginning to fall asleep earlier as well. Like their brain, it's like when you have to get up somewhere early, you do go to sleep, but you always give yourself exactly as many hours as you need to get to sleep. So it's like you push it till 2 a.m. saying I'm going to get up at 6, but you're going to hit the snooze button for 2 hours. In the same way, people just started to fall asleep earlier. So what we started to do is we packaged it all together. And I don't know if any of you have seen our new Indiegogo campaign. I'll put a picture of it up right here. But we are we just launched a new product called the Pavlok Shock Clock. My computer's crashing on me, so I'm hoping you guys can still hear me. We started a new product called the Pavlok Shock Clock, which is essentially it's the same hardware as the full Pavlok user, but it only works with the alarm clock app. And it's designed such that you can, we were basically raising money on Indiegogo to build a better alarm clock. So what it does is it's able to, we have 3 features. The first is snooze lock. So now it knows if you're actually getting out of bed using the accelerometer for motion, and it won't let you just fall back to sleep. It'll start to zap you if you try to cheat and go right back to sleep. Secondly, we have accountability. So you can choose an accountability partner or Facebook. And if you don't get up out of bed, it'll let your accountability partner know and let them or Facebook zap you. And lastly, sleep tracking. So it's able to track your sleep. It integrates with Sleep as Android, and it has its own internal sleep tracking mechanism. So we'll know your light stages and deep stages of sleep and be able to vibrate you gently to wake you up out of the light mode of sleep. So those are the big things we're doing right now. Big focus on the alarm clock. And that campaign is running right now until the end of the month. Trying to show it to you. Can't. But if you Google pavlok.com/IGG, you'll get there. Or if you Google Shock Clock, you'll get there.
And we can share that at the end with everyone as well.
Yeah,
everyone
cool.
will be able to see that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think here I can do it here, actually. One sec. And other than that, if you guys feel like shocking me, you can go to pavlok.com/shockmanish, which always is fun. I got a parrot. And other than
that, is that always available?
Yeah,
24/7.
It's always available. I'm a little. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's never been a problem because no one's really mean, but sometimes they are. Sometimes at 3 a.m. they are, and that's never fun. Cool. Let me see if I can share this. How do I do this? Share screen.
Yeah, nice. We can see it.
Cool. So yeah, that's a shot clock. Had a $1,000 goal. We hit 231,000 today, so I'm pretty proud of how good the team has been about pushing this forward. And let me see if I can show you. Who here is a developer? Are there developers in this group?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, we just released a developer API as well. So like, let me see. Hang on 1 second. I just want to see if I can do this. Pavlok.com/shockmanish. Yeah, so we just released a node integration. So it's 4 lines of code. And in those 4 lines, I just got a new phone, so I'm really curious to see if this works. I don't think, oh, sweet, it does. Yeah.
Nice.
Do you have this set up for everyone on the team?
Yeah, we have a Slack integration, so everyone on the team can receive them. So we do like, we use it a lot for positive reinforcers as like a reward. So when someone does a sale, we'll do /Pavlok vibrate, good job, person. And that person gets like a vibration pattern on their wrist, and then they get a message saying good job. And the whole team does it. And the only time we use Zap in the office is if someone is like we need them to pay attention. A lot of time, like our assembly team, they don't have their computer in front of them, and we really need their input on something. So we'll send a Zap to get their attention. But most of the time, the vibration has been a really powerful positive indicator, and that really kind of brings a team together in a cool way. We use it for like, I used to use it with my ex-girlfriend. We would send like vibration patterns that would mean different things. It was almost like having, okay, whoever's doing that, F you. But I know, right? But it's cool. It kind of felt like it became emoticons. Like we could send contextual information through vibration signals. So like I've been working on my house at programming Morse code into vibration so I can receive my text messages without having to pull out my phone. Working on things like being able to actually tap, like, yeah, so stuff like that is pretty cool. I find that subconscious communication through haptics is a new field that we're branching into. But other than that, I mean, we focus on habits, and that's kind of the summary of my presentation. So I'd love to give to hear any questions and answer anything that there might be. Alrighty.
Yeah, totally. I think David posted one in the chat. So
sure.
have you had any users ask about undoing an inversion? So like you said, let's say your schedule changes and you wake up at a different time. Do people have a difficult time making a change from habits that they built using inversion therapy?
Sure. So an aversion can be undone by consistently re-engaging in the stimulus. So that's different than waking up. So the aversion is like something like cigarettes or like eating sugar. If you consistently give yourself sugar and you make yourself eat it without applying the negative stimulus, the habit will come back, or the desire to do the behavior will come back. The best way to, I mean, if you want to, it's just going to be systematic desensitization. So you're just going to make yourself experience the idea in the way that you want to, just like any habit. You can make yourself go to the gym, even though it sucks, by doing it 21 to 66 days in a row. You can make yourself smoke cigarettes if you make yourself smoke cigarettes 5 to 10 days or 20 days in a row, of course. On the other hand, like, aversions are rarely formed using Pavlok accidentally. So like, I will use Pavlok a lot to cut down on drinking. On my second drink, I'll start zapping myself 2 or 3 times throughout the drink. And then instead of having 8 or 10 drinks, I'll only have that second drink or maybe a third. But I don't accidentally build an aversion towards drinking because I didn't overdo it to myself. The second part of your question, let's say your schedule changes and a different wake up time makes more sense. This is going to be just as difficult as if you were trying, I mean, at this point you've formed the habit of waking up at 9 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. So if you suddenly need to wake up at a different time, it's going to be just like if you had to do it anyway. You're going to have to make yourself wake up at that time and set a bunch of alarms or whatever. And over time, it'll get more easy as long as you're getting enough sleep. So the idea, I mean, using the shock to wake up won't form a habit of you always waking up at that time. It takes like a week or 2 before that natural waking up cycle occurs. But so a lot of people will use it, like a lot of nurses use it who have night shifts because they like need to get up at 6 a.m. or like a 45-minute nap, or like anybody doing polyphasic sleep. Like, you can have a shock be triggered after 20 or 30 minutes and it'll zap you awake, and you'll wake up. That won't make you wake up at that time every morning or whatever weird ass time it is that polyphasic sleep puts you in. But it'll definitely get you up. It just won't form the habit until you do it enough days in a row.
So I have a question. So you mentioned using this yourself for breaking that bag of chips habit. I don't know if that's the main one you've used it for, if you used it for other things. But what have been your experiences ongoing? So after the first 5 days, when in the habit that you've actually used it for?
So tortilla chips was a big one for me. I'm going to post the link to one of my YouTube videos there. I used it for a bunch of small habits and a few big habits. So I used it for tortilla chips, and 5 days I now get physically ill when I see the Tostitos bag. I can't go down the chips aisle anymore at a grocery store. It's been over 2 years now. I used it on, I got rid of a retainer in my mouth, and I used to lick the back of my teeth compulsively, and I got rid of that. I would like scratch myself like this randomly when I was like nervous or didn't know what to say. I've mostly gotten rid of that. I used to I used it to start doing my dishes. I gave myself an aversion to being grossed out by the stuff in the sink. And I'd look at it and zap myself repeatedly for like 2 or 3 days until it naturally made me start doing my dishes. My big one was getting over my ex-girlfriend. Every time I thought about her, I zapped myself. And that was huge for me. I don't know how I would have dealt with it if I hadn't had it. And recently I've been using it for complaining, which has been really cool. Actually, really, really cool. I follow Tim Ferriss's definition of a complaint, where a complaint is saying something negative without adding a solution into the same sentence. So, damn it, this sucks. It's going to rain today. That's a complaint. But damn it, this sucks. It's going to rain today. So I'm going to make sure I put an umbrella by the front door. That's not a complaint. That's a solution. And so what I've started to do was every time I catch myself in a complaint, I would zap myself. It only took 2 or 3 zaps before I would just continue the sentence on with a solution in it. And suddenly now my mind, it only took 2 or 3 days before my mind started thinking in solutions. So I've been doing that a lot, and that one's my current habit, which is really cool. Every time I say something negative, instantly the positive comes in the same sentence, and it's really changed my way of thinking.
How do you use aversion therapy with that?
That's not aversion therapy. It's just pressing the button every
Oh,
time.
you weren't. I don't know if you set up like the 5 minutes per day for 5 days.
No, I just used it as like a, if I do X, then Y. So I used it more as like a negative reinforcer, a positive punisher. Operant style. Yeah, it's actually really interesting because from like the aversion side, it's like we're both. Just depends how you use it. We're just a thing that delivers stimuli. So depending on how you use the device, it can be done in different ways. But our freaking number 2 complaint that we always get is like, this isn't classical conditioning. This is operant conditioning. I took a psychology class once at a community college, and now I'm going to fucking email everybody about it. So it's just like, it's like horrendous. It's a big problem, but it was only a really big problem because of the New York Times, because we were in the New York Times last week, and like they take journalistic accuracy very seriously at the New York Times. So now there's like 5 scientists on both sides, and we're like debating about it. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing, guys. It's clearly classical. You're just being dumb. God damn it. But it's not even worth it anymore. So yeah, that's, would it work to get yourself to relax? Absolutely. I use it all the time. Okay. So I look at the brain I look at everything in a system of serotonin and dopamine. Everything that I do is a formulation of habits, and through it a serotonin and dopamine game. And so what I use it to get myself to relax, asked David. One of the things I noticed is that, so if anyone here is not familiar with the difference between serotonin and dopamine, there are 2 things in the world that you like, and that is serotonin and that is dopamine. Serotonin is a type of happiness that's a wellness. I feel good, like my daughter just graduated from college. I just made love, like that kind of feeling. Whereas dopamine is like, let's make some fucking money. I just got fucked, yeah. Like totally different types of happiness, but totally real types of happiness. And what's really interesting is that as serotonin increases, dopamine decreases. And as dopamine increases, serotonin decreases. So when you play with those 2 variables, you can kind of find the sort of happiness you need at the moment, depending on the task you want to do. So with regards to relaxing, for many of us people here with open minds, we have consistently high dopamine counts. Where ADHD is what we're called, but realistically it's not a lack of focus, it's too much hyper focus. We're unable to turn down stimuli. So we are on Facebook, and then we get an email, and we have to switch and focus on the email. And then we get a tap on the wrist, we have to go and look over there, whatever that sound is. And then we think about playing a video game, we have to go play a video game. And there's no way for us to stop those fucking stimuli. And so what I started to do first of all, the big breakthrough was realizing that I'm not broken, and that it's a function of chemicals and a function of personality traits and not a disorder that I'd been told I'd had ever since I was a child, that I have a horrendous deficit of focus, and then I have a disorder, which is very self-destructive and not even a little bit true. That was a big breakthrough, first of all. Secondly, realizing that I was taking the wrong fucking kinds of drugs, that I was taking Adderall, or I was taking Ritalin, or I was taking caffeine, thinking that it's going to make me more focused, when it does not do that for people who are hyper-focused. People look at you, right? What am I talking about? I'm drinking a fucking Red Monster as I talk. But what I notice is that as people who have the kind of hyper-focused ADHD that I'm talking about, the people who are not unmotivated to get out of bed, but are too hyper-motivated to finish a task, those kinds of, and I'm assuming most of us are that kind of type, just the biohacking community seems to be full of us. Those kinds of people, the way I use Pavlok is to get myself to relax by means of meditating. Meditating will make your serotonin increase and your dopamine decrease. It's a very powerful tactic. So what I would do is I put on a Muse. I usually use Headspace, but I was using a Muse for these tests. And I simply tried to focus on my breath. And every time I lost focus on my breath, I'd zap the shit out of myself. And what was really cool is that my calm score instantly shot up like 40%. Like I'd always lose focus on my breath and then like get lost and then gently bring myself back to my breath, which then I'd lose it again, and then I shock myself, and then I just shut the fuck up. My reptile brain just stopped talking, and he's like, oh my God, there's actually a real reason for me to pay attention right now. And so I often use it in like a meditative manner if I'm just having too many like competing thoughts, I'll just shock myself 2 or 3 or 4 times, take a deep breath, smile, and relax. And it shouldn't be that hardcore, David. The word shock is the scary part here. We're talking about a small stimulus that brings you back into the present. You can use a vibration as well. I've just found that the zap is very powerful at making you notice it. And that's the key trigger here, that the creation of awareness is critical. It is what relaxation is. And the zap allows you to bring yourself into the present. So it shouldn't be hardcore. It should be just reasonable. And that's kind of the big thing I got to figure out how to tell people. Cool. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. And anyone else, feel free to jump in. You don't have to just ask them in the chat. But I was curious. So you mentioned some really interesting examples. Meditation is one, for example, I never would have thought of. Are there others that you've seen from users and customers that completely surprised you and ended up being really successful?
Yeah. Let me tell you some of the weird ones. Let's see. Some of the good ones. Okay, so depression. There's one story I tell a lot. It's really interesting. So this one woman called us and she said that she'd been suffering from severe depression ever since she was a teenager, and she was wondering if Pavlok could help. And I said, I don't know. I don't think we can do anything related to chemical levels in the brain. I can't figure out how to cure serious depression. But I also believe that a lot of depression is a reoccurring thought process, and that possibly I can help you fix it if it's that kind of depression. I don't know. Here's what I want you to do. For the next 5 days, every time you catch yourself in a serious depressive thought pattern, zap yourself twice, take a deep breath, smile, and text me where you are. On day 1, she caught herself at work. On day 2, she caught herself on the way to work. On day 3, she caught herself reaching for the front door. Day 4, front door. Day 5, front door. I said, what is going on with your front door? There was a flower vase sitting next to her front door. When she was 16, she and her twin sister had a birthday party. All these people came over, and her twin sister got a ton of gifts, and she got nothing. Her twin sister said, hey, here, have this flower vase. It'll be like a gift for you. That flower vase was triggering these thoughts of nobody loves me, nobody cares, nobody wants me. So I had her throw away the flower vase. And the next day she texted me at like 2 p.m. and she's like, hey, I haven't felt sad at all today. This is the weirdest thing. So depression was a big one. Finding that we could get people out of depression. We've had a lot of PTSD users use it. They find themselves in, so PTSD is a very interesting mode of action in which there's a come up period of between 2 and 4 weeks where someone knows it's coming and they can't do anything about it. And then there's like this really bad period of 2 weeks or so where they're like, waking up in night terrors and all the really bad parts of PTSD. And that's followed by a come down of 1 to 2 weeks. And what we found is that our users were able to zap themselves at the beginning of the uptake process. So all the PTSD patients have said the same thing. It doesn't stop it. They can't get rid of it, but now it's manageable and they're able to snap themselves out of it much, much faster than they used to. So PTSD has been a big one. Then we get some weird ones. Like we have this necklace version which zaps you through the neck, and we just found out it increases duration and intensity of orgasms, like really seriously. So like a lot of users started using it for sex. And my favorite review was like, it's a safer alternative for autoerotic asphyxiation. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. So that one's cool. And then we get like a lot of people sending zaps to each other or vibrations to each other. We get a lot of communication, like that sort of stuff is pretty cool. Video games are pretty cool. So like I've been working on like some minor games, but things like Pong, or like imagine you're playing Pong and if you score on your friend gets shocked, or if he scores on you, you get shocked. Suddenly the game is fun. So like we just partnered with a laser tag company. So when you're playing laser tag, if you get shot in the game, you get shocked as well. What are some of the other cool stuff we have upcoming? Time. Every 15 minutes, like a vibration pattern depending on the time. So you kind of subconsciously always know what time it is. That one's cool. If this then that, we had a competition for the best recipe, and the winner was if I take a selfie, shock me. So that was cool. It's like training yourself not to do it. Those are most of them. Yeah, HRV tracking. Yeah, I used to be a heavy HRV tracker every day for like 9 months. I wish Pavlok could track our HRV. I wish we had any kind of sensors inside of it. I wish like in a future version, I'll want to make like a band that has like a screen and sensors. So it's like able to know particularly stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I'm really good at knowing, like a gambler or if a gambler is about to go on tilt, it's very easy to tell based on simple heart rate data. And being able to zap them 20 times, like, stop it, you're being stupid, stop it. Anger, we're able to detect through basic step tracking sensors. So loudness, uhs and ums, cursing, those are things I want to build into very new. I mean, very soon I want to build them up. But yeah, biggest thing right now we're focused on is we're on Shark Tank next Friday. So if any of you guys are in New York or Boston, we're going to be hosting a party. But we're going to be on the season finale. It's pretty cool. It's going to be good TV, I'll tell you that. And our biggest focus right now is getting inventory to sustain for the next couple months. After that, I'm going to be focused on building up the next product. So that'll be kind of cool.
How big's your team over at Pavlok?
We have 6 or 7 people full-time in Boston, 6 or 7 people full-time abroad, and 6 or 7 people who are contractors. So almost 18 people.
Awesome.
Yeah, it grows fast.
Yeah.
It's cool to have people. It's not cool on salary day. That week sucks.
Yeah.
Every week I'm like, well, I guess we're bankrupt again. Fuck. God damn.
And why'd you choose Shark Tank? As from
they chose me. They called me.
yeah.
They, from a marketing perspective, it's.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, from a marketing perspective, I mean, it's going to be amazing. I had a call with a woman who did a show earlier this year. They made like a what do you call it? Like deodorant that's all natural, and they sold like $12 per deodorant. And before Shark Tank, they were doing $50 a day, and then the week after Shark Tank, they did $1 million, and now they do like $250,000 a month. And it's like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, like we like New York Times, we had like a small article in the back of a Tuesday issue, and it drove over $100,000 in revenue in like 3 days. And so if that could be done with a tiny tiny New York Times article, I'm like really curious to see what we can do with a big, huge Shark Tank season finale primo position.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Richard asked, how long does it take to shoot the Shark Tank pitch? The pitch itself was 45 minutes. The process that weekend was like 2 days, and it was like a long time. Like I think it was almost a year and a half before the first call became the show.
Yeah, wow. That's quite a process. I think it's really interesting how you launched this product. Switching gears just slightly, because it's, I don't think you had an experience with a product like this in the past.
No.
And so you took this raw idea, turned it into product, used it Indiegogo, I believe, to launch initially, and then continued to build it up from there, and now on Shark Tank and launching more Indiegogo projects. What's that experience been like from start to finish?
I'm going to say one thing. We got really lucky that it works. That was a big luck factor, because like I built it as a novelty joke object that was going to shock me if I went on Facebook. And that's funny and cool, and maybe it would have sold, but it isn't the reason why we're successful. The reason we're successful is because we cure smoking addiction, or we cure people who used to sleep too much, or we make it so people who had PTSD are able to manage it again. So a lot of this is due to the fact that I stumbled on something that's magic. And it's not like I'm that smart. I literally just hired some chick to slap me in the face and then said, hey, this would be a funny blog post if I got shocked by a dog collar. And then it turned out that it was a really good idea. It's just kind of like any sort of big discovery is always just an accident. So one thing that I found really interesting in the entire, even till today, is when I tell people I make a wearable that helps you break bad habits, about 30% of people will instantly respond and say, what does it do? Shock me? Well, yeah. First of all, you ruined the whole fuck you. You ruined everything. Like this whole conversation's done now. But it's like endemic in the mindset of people that shock will make you stop a bad habit. why aren't we doing it? I like to look for things like that, things that people say in a joking tone that are more true than they realize. Because those things are the secret sauces that everyone knows the answer to, that just people aren't really, that they're just too risk averse to actually do. Those things are the $1 trillion ideas that people are looking for. And I can't give you that many examples because there's not that many of them. But if you listen in conversation for things that are like funny, but everybody gets the joke and counterintuitive, but real, those are like the big opportunities. I don't know. It's something to look out for. Somebody asked me a question and I feel like I didn't answer your question, Mark. What was your question? Oh, how did I go about doing it? Yeah. So hardware is really, 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 really hard. The first, and if I had known what I was doing, like I had to do a questionnaire or something yesterday where they said, if you could go back in time and tell your younger entrepreneur yourself, what would you say? And I was like, nothing. I would not say shit. If I talked to him and I told him what was going to be happening, he never would have done this. Like, this is way hard. I've had so many sleepless nights where I couldn't pay payroll. And it's like, and hardware is one of those things where you don't realize that you have to pay for inventory. And you pay for inventory before you sell it. And inventory costs a lot of fucking money. So it's like for example, when we did our Indiegogo, the first one, we raised like $250,000 or $280,000. And then like a year later, I'm going to ship out those people's units, right? Oh, wait, I got to buy those units. I didn't think about that. And it was like an over $100,000 charge to buy inventory for parts that I already sold, right? Like, where the fuck am I going to come with $100,000? I thought we were done here. That sort of consistent problem is the reason why I love hardware, because it's so fucking hard to get started. So like, if you can get into it, even if Fitbit or Apple wanted to copy off Pavlok, it would take them 9 months to get their supply chain up. It's just, that's how it is. There's just physical limitations on time. And so you get like, whereas with software, like 2 dudes in a garage can recode Snapchat, but like building a hardware product has physical time restrictions. So we got lucky in the sense that I had a background in sales. I already had an email in online digital marketing. I had a lot of connections. I already had an email list. So we were able to maintain the majority of our sales, majority of our cash flow through selling it and pre-selling it. But we still had to raise over $500,000. We still had to do like last minute launches just because we were less than 3 days of money left in the bank, and I had to come up with a reason to sell a product that to sustain ourselves. So I wrote a whole article on this. Actually, I'll share with everybody about how we fundraised, how we funded everything. It's called Kickstarter's Sort of Debt, and I'm going to send it to you in the chat to everyone. So it's actually, I think it's a pretty good article. Okay. I'm getting an email message from David asking about what Chrome extensions are my big ones. Honestly, the Pavlok Chrome extension has been really dope. And not to like show off, it's because I started programming it to be my Craigslist slapper. I started programming it to be a productivity extension. And I started to realize over time that the act of being productive is not getting rid of bad websites. So getting shocked for going on Facebook is not going to solve my problem of being productive, but that the definition of productivity is producing something or getting new things done. And so we built into it. Let me see if you can see this. Can you see this pop up right now, you guys?
Yep.
Okay, so I built into this, so like if you look at the Chrome extension, and you don't need a Pavlok to use it. It works without a Pavlok. It just doesn't do the stimuli. It does the Chrome notifications. But you can set up like blacklisted websites, right? And you can set up like how many tabs you want to open. But recently I've been using the to-do list feature. And so what we did is it's integrated with Todoist and any.do, or it has its own. And you set up a list of action items you want to do each day, and it's combined with number of pomodoros, or how much time you want to spend working on it, and blacklisted and whitelisted websites. And so if I want to do my email, I want to do 2 pomodoros of journaling each day. So I'll do 1 pomodoro, and it's pretty shitty instant system right now. It's still being built, but it'll make me work on the journal. And if I try to navigate to another site, it'll start to zap me for being on other sites. So for those 25 minutes, I'm stuck in that domain. What's cool though, and I think that this is actually the big secret to what we're going to be doing. The hard part for me, like ever since I had this, the problem was not setting it up. It was actually just sitting down and doing it, right? Like actually sitting down and starting the Pomodoro is like the really hard part. And I think it's so minor, but it's such a big shift in cognitive thinking is making, like, instead of technology doing what we want it to do for us, I want technology to make me do what it wants me to do for now. Meaning that I still wasn't starting my Pomodoro, so then we programmed into an in-house office version where it actually starts to bother you throughout the day. So it pops up and says, hey, come on, man, it's time for you to start your Pomodoro. You said you're going to do it. Let's do it. And if I hit ignore, it'll start doing it more and more often. And then if I keep ignoring it, this one's in the in-house version, it starts to inject slowdowns into your browser. So it takes like 2 seconds for each page to load. And then it'll just start shocking you. Hey, come on, I have to do this. You have to fucking start doing email. Come on, it'll just start zapping me. And otherwise, and then it'll just start blocking websites and just turning it off. And so that's been cool because it makes me do stuff. So like, that's nice. So that one's been one of the cooler extensions I built. Other than that, I don't know, Bitmoji is a fun extension. Here's a cool one. User agent switcher. This one is cool if you guys ever fly on planes. Cool trick on how to get 75% off on all GoGo in-flight. If you install this extension and you set it to iOS, so it makes your computer look like an iOS device, and then you buy a mobile day pass from gogoanair.com, and then you get on a plane and you log in while you're still in iPhone mode, it'll cost $8 and you get 24 hours of internet online on any plane, and you can use it as a regular computer. So that's a cool trick.
You've always been the master of hacking the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done.
Yeah. Okay. Richard's bringing. This will be my last question because I got to go. But Richard asked.
I was gonna say, I want to be conscious of time.
Yeah, my aunt initially used her Pavlok at a setting that was too high for her and became scared to use the device. She built a fucking aversion to the device. It's so obvious that was going to happen. I couldn't believe that I didn't realize it until we got all these user reports. That our users would shock themselves on high the first time, and then they would never use the device again because they built the aversion to the fucking device. The secret is I always demo it in a specific way. So we have double tap so you can set the strength here. So I always put it on someone's wrist, and I'm like, so this is vibration mode. That's like something nice that happens when you walk enough steps or someone likes your status. And this is 25%. So this happens when I open my refrigerator door. And you start low and you move up like a frog in boiling water. This is 50% at my alarm clock level, and then I judge how scared they are by that section, and then I say, cool, that's your level, or let's go up one higher. So the secret is to start at vibration and move up. Cool. Has anybody else here experienced Pavlok or tried it out?
I've not yet.
Cool. Well, let me see. Let me do it before I forget right now. I'll make a discount code for you right now. And then
all right, thank you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
1 second.
And it is a fun party trick also.
Yeah, it is.
You use it with people who aren't expecting it.
My favorite thing is like twice I've met somebody who was wearing a Pavlok and didn't know who I was. And I like love to just ask them what it is and then wait until they tell me. It's just so fun. And they're like, yeah, it's good. Like, it's okay. I think it's messed up. I don't know. I think it's a dumb idea. What do you do? I invented that thing. Too much.
Isn't the app, so the app is...
You said you had that 18?
Sorry, what was that, Mark?
Mark, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say the app is like anyone can download it, right? And then you just pair via Bluetooth to the device. So technically anyone around you could start zapping you. Yes, that's true.
So funny story. So we have a safe pair mode now, so you can set it so it doesn't broadcast anymore, so that won't happen. But it's off by default. It should be on by default once I trust it. But so I was at a party with a friend of mine, and he was like wanting to start talking to girls. So I said, yo, go talk to that girl over there, or else we're going to zap you a few times. And he's like, fine. And he goes over and he starts talking to her. Meanwhile, me and my friend are over here, and we're like showing off a Pavlok to somebody else, and he was using the app. And he's like, I don't know. I just keep hitting the button. It's just not working. It seems like it's paired. I don't know. Maybe the app was broken. Like 5 minutes later, our friend comes back. He's like, you fucking assholes. I was talking to her, and you shocked me like 30 times. That was funny. All right. I have got you guys a 25% off discount code. The discount code is Chicago. I'm putting the link in. It'll expire tonight at midnight, so I don't forget. And if you guys are interested in buying it, grab it. We're a little bit delayed on shipping, but it's about to get really delayed after Shark Tank. So if you want it this month, you should buy it today.
Sounds good. And
Yeah, thank you. We'll share that with the group.
Yeah, awesome. What's that?
Sorry,
You
Neil.
mentioned a developer API.
Yeah, developer API. Cool. We have a fucking node module that is 4 lines of code, and you're up. It's really cool.
Okay.
If you're a developer, you'll be excited what I'm building right now. So I'm sending you the npm JS. Might be a little confusing. If it is, I can walk you through it. It's kind of confusing by design, but not anymore. It was because we were worried about it before, but now it should be working. Here's a couple samples. So what I've been working on is this. Let me show you. Hang on. What the hell? This goddamn Zoom. What is going on? Okay, one moment. Okay, there's some samples as well.
Cool.
So what we're working on right now is I'm pretty proud of. I think it'll be ready in, I would guess, I would say safely 2 months. Can you see my screen? You can't, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. One second, and I'll be done. Can you see now?
Yep. There we go.
So what we're working on is a way that you can literally type directly into the browser. So it's like the entire lines of code to get it set up are required. Just like my Pavlok equals and do like my Pavlok dot login. So it's like the secret and the ID from that we give you when you create an account, and then you just do my Pavlok dot vibrate. And that'll vibrate the myPavlok.login will pop up an OAuth login screen to anybody. And then myPavlok.vibrate will vibrate your wrist. But the cool thing is we're making it so it's programmable in the browser. So this won't actually work, but if I hit run, it would actually work in the browser. And then the goal is to move this over to developer.pavlok.com. So when you log in one line of code, you'll be able to vibrate your wrist. And then from there, you hit deploy, and you can deploy it directly to our app store. So you can write your own code in JavaScript directly in the browser and then deploy it to our app store and then make money from it. So that'll be coming up in the next 2 months. Like the making money in the full app store thing won't be done in the next 2 months, but the programming in your browser and having it run on the server will. And that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
That'll be fun to play with.
Cool, guys.
Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Hope you learned something.
I definitely did. That was awesome.
All right,
yeah,
guys.
we'll get this video posted and send it over to you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Have a good day.